Lloyd is a boy who lives in the village of Kunlun with his older brother Soma, and Kunlun is the place of heroes guarding the defeated demon kings. When growing up, Lloyd left his hometown to go to the kingdom to join the army, and he went to the house of a witch in the city named Mary to ask for a groom. But Mary refused because she didn't know who he was, so Lloyd pulled out a magic ball. Then from there appeared a 3D image of the village chief, Kunlun. When she saw the village chief, Mary immediately knelt down because she was her master. And after learning that Lloyd is her granddaughter, she has to leave Lloyd here. Not stopping there, the village chief can also teleport to Mary's house via magic orb, and she cursed Mary to have bad luck and fear her one day for daring to call her lowly, making her keep getting into trouble that day. Lloyd didn't think he could pass the entrance exam because he was the quickest in the village. But when she learned that Lloyd had run across the continent for 6 days, Mary was shocked because the people of Kunlun village were on superhero sides. Lloyd also mastered ancient runes capable of breaking curses, but he just wrote it on a towel and used it to wipe the table and chairs. The next day, while on his way to take the military entrance exam, Lloyd saw a little girl named Selene being attacked by a giant grasshopper, and he easily handled the grasshopper in one hit to rescue her. Seeing that her face was dusty, Lloyd used a handkerchief with runes to clean her face. When she was a child, Selenium was afflicted with a curse that caused by a bell to wrap around her head. But the curse was completely broken thanks to Lloyd's craft. Riho was always one of the participants for the entrance exam this time, but she didn't expect that a monster with the same strength as Lloyd would also take the exam. And when Lloyd said hello, she thought she was about to be eaten by him. Selenium suddenly appeared and kicked Riho away, and she had a crush on Lloyd after he saved her. The person responsible for this exam was Colonel Medvan, and he also didn't understand why a young man with monster powers like Lloyd would want to join the army. His strength can even take out honest students as well as the teachers in the school. However, for some reason, Lloyd failed the entrance exam and both Selenium and Riho were surprised not to see him in the ranks of successful candidates. Lloyd decided that he would apply for a part-time job at the restaurant of an entire former colonel to have money to cover his life. And as soon as he stepped inside, he suddenly rushed out to attack him, because the aura he gave off was no different from that of a monster. However, the owner of the restaurant regained his composure when he learned that Lloyd was only here to apply for a job, and after witnessing his amazing cooking ability, he immediately got him to work. According to teacher Colin, because he wrote runes on the text instead of writing lowercase letters, Lloyd failed, because not many people can read ancient runes these days, and Meltfan scolded the examiner for failing a national talent. When he learned that Lloyd had failed, the village chef demanded the destruction of the whole kingdom, but he stopped her because he still wanted to take the exam again in the next round. Mary kept calling the village head old lady Lowly, so she kept cursing her, causing her to have constant cramps all day. So she got angry and threw the teleport ball into the well. The next day, Mudfan and Rehal stopped by for lunch at Crom's dinner, and they were surprised to see that Lloyd was working there. An unlucky young man whose chest hair was stripped of his chest by Selenium for offending a noble like her, and another noble boy named Alan challenged her to a duel, considering her actions too cruel. However, when Alan jumped to attack Selenium, her belt suddenly knocked him away, and Selenium suddenly went crazy when she saw Lloyd standing in the crowd. Then she asked Lloyd to fight Alan on her behalf. Meltfan and the others were so shocked when Alan was so upset that he showed his face to Lloyd, and when Lloyd's terrible punch was about to send Alan to the afterlife. Luckily, a whirlwind swept Lloyd away. It turns out the one who created the whirlwind to take Lloyd away was Mary. And thinking that Mary did it to save him, Lloyd immediately thanked her. Trump suddenly appeared below and asked to speak to Mary privately, because he learned that Mary is the princess of this amazing kingdom. But she escaped from the palace 5 years ago. Selenium and Rihal have taken on a quest to find the lost princess of the kingdom, and when they arrive at the Mary's house to find out more information, Selenium is extremely jealous to learn that Joy is living with her. After chatting for a while, Riho discovered that Mary was the princess they were looking for, and they learned that Mary had to escape the palace because the king was being controlled by someone. Just as Mary was sitting on the roof thinking, the village chief suddenly appeared, and her body was now wet like a rat because Mary had thrown the teleport ball into the well. That night, seeing that Lloyd seemed sad, the village chief took him on a tour around the city, and a huge swarm of grasshoppers suddenly appeared to attack everyone here. In the castle at this time, Trump discovered that the one manipulating the king was the Melvin, and Mary and the other two girls also quickly appeared to expose his shady deeds. However, the king's soul was already possessed by a demon king named Abaddon, and he used dark magic to turn the Melvin into a locust monster. After transforming, Mephan had an extremely powerful strength, so the girls can't defeat him. And Mary at this time also confronted the demon lord abandoned in the king's body. The village chief and Lloyd had quickly destroyed all the locusts in his lair and were running around the city when Lloyd suddenly saw Alan sitting shivering in the corner because of too much fear. Lloyd stopped talking to cheer up Alan, and he couldn't believe his eyes when he watched Lloyd destroy a giant grasshopper with a snap of his fingers. However, thanks to Lloyd's words of encouragement, Alan quickly regained his spirits, and when he used on his strength, he succeeded in defeating the giant grasshopper. The battle in the castle is still raging, and Selenium has successfully activated her belt to fight Melfin. Lloyd went to the castle to help everyone, and as soon as he saw the Melfin, he scolded him for playing cosplay while the city was in danger. So he tapped his head lightly to restrain him, causing him to collapse on the spot. Mary was chased by the demon lord abandoned in the king's body towards everyone, and when he saw the king's face was smeared, Lloyd took out a towel to wipe his face. But unexpectedly, his handkerchief with runes had purified even the demon lord Abaddon. When the war ended, John went back to the army to take the place of Melfin, and Melfin in the meantime is being sent to Kunlun village for penance by doing community service. Mary went back to her house to continue being a witch instead of going back to being a princess in the palace. And thanks to Alan's intervention, Lloyd was accepted into the military school. Mary and Lloyd went to the Holy War village to collect trust and thought the Holy War was trust, so Lloyd pulled it out and threw it in the trash bag to bring back. Soon, the Bilbo's military school will hold a friendly competition with the Magic Academy, and after checking the students' ability, everyone feared that if Lloyd participated, someone would die. There are two Mana sisters. The same fellow from the Magic Academy is staying in the Mary's house. While standing talking, her sister Philo suddenly felt a strong aura, and when she found out that the person giving off the aura it was Lloyd, she unleashed massive blows on him. But after the series of blows, Lloyd didn't join at all, but thought that Philo was helping him repel mosquitoes. The day before the friendship competition, the head of the Magic Academy, Ro, had visited the chief of staff, and it seemed that she had some kind of friction with Riho before. Seeing Riho looking sad after meeting Ro, Lloyd invited her out for a drink to confide in, and he learned that the two of them used to live together in an orphanage. As a child, Riho's left arm couldn't be activated properly, so Ro went out to get a mental arm for Riho. But her purpose was to use it with Riho using the mental arm to draw a holy war. On the day of the competition, Trump announced that the prize of the tournament was the legendary Holy War, much to the surprise of Ron and Riho as they had been trying for years to get it out of the rock. This is a magic match, so no physical attacks are allowed, and whoever breaks the rules or gets kicked out of the ring will be disqualified. In the first match, Selenium will fight Philo, and as soon as she enters the battle, Philo attacks her with a thunderbolt, but she easily blocks the attack with her belt. Selenium used the belt to tie up Philo, and the referee suddenly lost Selenium because her belt would also count as physical damage. In the second match, Lloyd will face Mana, and the Mana create a lump of water around Lloyd's head to make him suffocate. But dozens of minutes passed and Lloyd was still unharmed. Failed to suffocate Lloyd, So Mena decided to change course, and this time she used a whirlpool to attack. But Lloyd suddenly fired a powerful water bending that caused her to be knocked down easily. In the final match, Riho will face Ro, and they have a very fierce battle, but Riho doesn't have enough magic power to continue to deal with Ro. However, when carelessly approaching Riho, Ro was knocked away by her with a magic stone, and Riho returned Ro to use a super magic to defeat her, causing her was so scared that he fainted on the spot. So the battle ended with a victory in the favor of the military school. That night, Philo went to Floyd's place to challenge him to an arm wrestling match, and their arm wrestling match was so intense that it flew several buildings. But in the end, Lloyd still managed to win over Philo. Realizing that Lloyd is a strong guy, Philo offered to marry him too, but he turned down Philo's offer because he thought that he was still very quick. The next day, Rose seemed to have realized his mistakes, and Riho also went to the hospital room to visit her. The student in the army school was going to be on vacation soon, and Trump recommended Lloyd to work at a hotel run by his friend. Coincidentally, Riho went to this hotel to relax, and when she found out that Lloyd was the one to give her message, she refused to be served by him and asked to change people. Selenium also came to the hotel with her father to discuss business with his partner, and when he first saw Lloyd, Selenium pouted him like a madman and immediately pulled him into a corner to confide in him in private. But Riho was there in time to stop Selenium before she did anything wrong. The village chief, along with the others, also came to this place to take a hot spring bath, and right after that, a three demon king suddenly appeared to attack everyone in the hotel. So the friends had to rush out to fight with it. The girls used a combination spell to freeze him, and Lloyd leapt forward to defeat the demon king by crushing his car. When the war was over, Selenium's father knew that his daughter was falling in love with Lloyd, so he asked Lloyd to take care of her. And she rushed to cling to Lloyd, thinking that my father agreed for the two of them to get married. Lloyd's brother Soma and a guide named Saul are the ones behind the incident, and they lured a military girl named Mikona to drink the life force of the Demon King Abaddon, causing her to quickly transform into a grasshopper like the previous Muffin. After returning home, the new recruits received a mission to go to a dungeon near the city, and the village chief Lolly and Mary also secretly entered that dungeon. While separating from the village chief, Mary accidentally encountered Mikona, and Mary was immediately tied up by her. But fortunately, Lloyd suddenly appeared to rescue Mary in time, thanks to Soma pumping a bunch of potions. Mikona has a tremendous amount of power, and she can even fight on par with Lloyd in a short amount of time. But in the end, she was still thrown out of the dungeon by Lloyd with all her might. Just as the battle was over, a red grey serpent suddenly appeared, and he had known Lloyd since he was a child. The grey serpent Vulture is the source of the village's power, and he had to flee the village of Kunlun after he had his skin built up to make an apron. Their conversation was interrupted by the appearance of Saul, and the village headmistress also appeared shortly after to face him. Saul rushed to attack Richard with the intent to cut off the source of the village drunk's power. But the village head woman still rushed up to knock Saul away as usual. As it turned out, Vitra's spirit had entered Selenium's belt, as the belt was once made from one of his scales, and seeing the situation at a disadvantage, Saul quickly fled to prepare for the next plan. The village chief brought Lloyd and the others to visit the village of Kunlun to restore Vitra's body, and when they reached to the teleport door to the village, they met a dwarf named Ilk. Ilk surprised to learn that Vitra's spirit is in the belt of Selenium, and as soon as they entered the village, the group could not believe their eyes before the extraordinary power of people here. Transmitting message by rubbing Lester on the rock and then throwing them behind the mountain, moving by getting into the rod of the cannon and then being shot away. Everyone met Lloyd's grandfather on his way home from work, and Philo immediately recognized him as a legendary demon god. Since he was young, she trained herself according to his martial arts postures, but when she knew that such martial arts were just some nourishing exercise, she couldn't say the word. Colin and Tom were surprised to see Madfun wearing a loincloth to farm, and they suggested he and the others go back to the city. That night, the group of friends was invited home by Lloyd to meet his relatives, and they threw a party to welcome his friends. The next day, Ook took everyone to visit the last dungeon, and this is the place where many demon lords have been defeated by the villagers. Ook prepared the tools to restore the body of the Grey Snake Witcher, and after completing the rituals, the Witcher sword was put into an herb, and the village head woman was also now completely powerless because her link with the dungeon was finally severed. After everyone left, Ook met the chef of the village privately, and he tricked the village head into falling into a tiger in the forest. As it turned out, Urk actually sealed the Grey Serpent in order to remove the village chef's power, and his aim was to bring the defeated Demon King back to this world once more. Urk went back to meet everyone and suggested they return to the city first without Lloyd, and when Lloyd arrived to taunt him to go back to the village to fight the village chef in the woods, Urk closed the portal after returning to the city with everyone, and Lloyd had now found the village chef in the hall in the forest. Azami Kingdom is hardly a friendly competition with the neighboring empire, and it is so who is in control of that empire. After learning that the kingdom of Azami was in danger, Lloyd quickly flew the capital with a cannon, and in the meantime the first match had begun with Alan as the opener. The Persian facing Alan was none other than Mikona, and with her monster strength, Mikona easily defeated Alan. In the stands now, Saul's other king to cooperate with his empire to rule the world together, but King Asami refused to Saul other earth to summon a giant swarm of locusts attack people. Melvin appeared and attacked Soma, and although his strength had increased significantly since Kunlun did community service, Soma easily defeated him with a single hit. Meanwhile, the girls are fighting against the giant grasshoppers, and Mikona is playing around with Mary. Philo tries to kill her with just one kick. In the stands, Saul revealed that he was created by a previous village chef for the purpose of defeating the demon lords of the past. But when peace returns, he cannot die, and in order to die, he will have to choose another hero. Soon after, Lloyd landed in the middle of the arena to everyone's surprise, and Ook summoned a giant stone human whose main heart was Mikona. Lloyd used physical attack to repeatedly attack the Stoneman, but no matter how the Stoneman was attacked, the Stoneman quickly recovered his body. After learning that Mikona is the type of a girl who likes women and hates men, Riho used one of Mary's pants to coax her out of the Stoneman. And while Urk was looking at the Stoneman, Selenium suddenly rushed out to retrieve the Witcher sealing ball, and she released him back to her belt. After losing his horse, Mikona, Lloyd easily defeated the Stoneman, and Shoma and Saul was cheering for him in the stands. As it turned out, their real purpose to make Lloyd become a hero, and as soon as the village head woman appears after regaining his strength, Saul's group hastened to leave. When the war was over, Melfan was cleared to return to army to work, and everyone got back to their peaceful lives. Thank you for watching the video review. I will leave other videos of the channel here, and don't forget to click the subscribe button and the bell button to receive notifications of the latest videos.